Allahu Akbar.
The Syrian War is no joke, and we seem to be hearing more and more about it every day as the United States' involvement has reached an all-time high. We have been hearing about Syrian refugees seemingly non-stop for the last couple of years, but what most people don't understand is how the conflict in Syria started, who is really involved, and why. The Syrian War started as a relatively simple civil war that has since grown to include forces from many different groups and countries. Syria is a dictatorship run by President Bashar al-Assad. At the beginning of the war, it started back in spring of 2011 when Arab Spring demonstrators conducted peaceful protests against Assad's regime. Assad didn't take kindly to these protests and promptly fired back on protesters with his military forces. This sparked protesters to fire back on Assad's forces in July, forming the Free Syrian Army with the help of some defectors from Assad's military. In 2012, the conflict ramps up as extremists flock to support the rebels. Surprisingly, Assad fuels this by releasing extremist prisoners in hopes that they will be denied international support. Soon after, Kurdish forces in Syria informally secede in support of the rebels. That summer, Iran joins the conflict as one of Assad's strongest allies and sends supplies and officers to Syrian battlegrounds. On the other side, the Persian Gulf states such as Saudi Arabia support the rebels by sending money and supplies to counter Iran's influence. Furthermore, an Iran-backed group in Lebanon, known as Hezbollah, joins the fight to support Assad, while Jordan joins the Persian Gulf states in support of the rebels. Within a year, many forces have already joined the war, and the mess only grows from there. By this time, the Assad forces are mostly Shia Muslims, while the rebels are predominantly Sunni. 2013 marks the start of U.S. involvement when the CIA signs a secret order to arm and train rebels. Shortly thereafter, Syria uses chemical weapons on its own people, sparking international outrage. By this time, it becomes evident that Russia shows support for Assad. Early that year, ISIS forms, shaking up the entire situation by fighting rebels and the Kurds to start to form its own state. In September 2014, the U.S. begins bombing campaigns on ISIS, and the Pentagon signs an order to train rebels to fight them on the ground. Turkey soon gets involved by bombing Kurdish forces, despite Turkey being an American ally, which shows how multiple interests have made the war such a big mess. In late 2015, Russia sends military aircraft to Syria, claiming to support the fight against ISIS, but mostly just bombs the rebels in support of Assad. In 2016, when Trump was elected, he said he would stay out of Syria, and around the same time, Assad was able to regain control of the major city of Aleppo from the rebels. The situation has changed drastically recently as Syria used chemical weapons on its own people, killing 85, including 20 children. Trump has since responded to this attack by firing 59 Tomahawk missiles onto a Syrian airbase where Russia planes also operate. Russia was given only an hour advance notice. This marks the first direct American military involvement in the Syrian civil war and has largely been denounced by Russia. The war altogether is just as much of a mess as it has ever been, and only seems to be getting worse. With direct United States involvement, it has become more relevant than ever for the American public to understand the situation, especially as ties with Russia have further diminished. For such an important issue, it seems that Americans don't know enough about what is actually going on. So I took a short poll for a few college students in the honors program as freshmen here at the University of Maryland to see what they know.
So, Steve, who are the two main groups fighting in the Syrian civil war?
I believe it is the U.S. and Syria.
Okay, how is Russia involved in the conflict?
They are an ally of Syria, so they're fighting for Syria.
Okay, and who does the United States support?
What do you mean?
What side of the conflict does the United States support?
Themselves.
Okay, thank you. Who are the two main groups fighting in the Syrian civil war?
The rebels and the Syrian government.
Who does the United States support?
Neither.
How is Russia involved in the civil war?
They're backing Bashar al-Assad's government.
Who is the leader of Syria?
Bashar al-Assad.
So, what type of government does Syria have?
I believe recently they have a representative democracy.
All right, why did the United States recently perform an airstrike on a Syrian airstrip?
I believe they were tactically trying to eliminate the airplanes in the airstrip for ISIS members.
All right, who is the leader of Syria?
I can't tell you that. I'm sorry.